one of the key elements of joie de vivre, or the joy of life, or the art of existence, as the French put it in more of a culinary sense, culinary slash social sense, is how to make a nice set of French press coffee. You need really nothing more than three things to make a beautiful cup of coffee. Four things actually, one of them being hot water. This morning up at hunting camp, which is where I am right now, the stove was a little low, so I wanted some hot water right away. I wanted a cup of coffee, so my little improv was basically running hot water through a coffee machine without any coffee. So I want the real deal, not the American coffee, as I've heard some Europeans call it, or the perk coffee. Correlative to the way the Japanese view the way most Americans shower. They call it the raven's bath in comparison to the nice ceremony and segmented nature of the Japanese bath. So, Japanese bath, French coffee, American coffee. I'm an American and need some French coffee. So let's begin the process. First thing you need is a bag of really nice coffee. Really nice coffee is coffee you like. Coffee is a personal decision. I really don't know what kind of coffee this is, but really the only way of knowing is taking a nice whiff, and right there, and you can feel the oil on the inside of the bag. And the point of French press is really having it in the whole bean, because the whole bean is like being the butcher of the bean. You get to break it down yourself. The only challenge is, and I think everybody remembers that movie City Slickers, when he hits the perk coffee machine and the stampede and everything. So I try to kind of break it up for the sleeping members in the house by giving it a little bit of a kind of a hopping motion and kind of jolt it, and I don't go for the high-end wah kind of thing going on there. Number two, we got to plug in this machine. Plug it in we shall. Try not to get electrocuted before you have your coffee. So there we go. So beautiful little thing. These guys, spice grinders, very handy in the house. Very beautiful, nice to have around. Used for black pepper. Also, I've got some, regular spices. My Grand Marshal. In a pinch, I can bust out a small bit of spices that I need to use for whatever it is that I'm using. And then sometimes, if I'm using my spice maker as a spice maker, and then I run some coffee through it, then it gets all fancy. I call it Moroccan coffee, even though that really has no correlation, absolutely. So again, you don't really want to wing, because you're going to wake up everyone in the house. Number two, it doesn't really get it really doesn't really get a nice coffee bean consistency in the grind. You don't really want to buzz the bottom of it and leave the top getting all whole and ruined. So you basically want to kind of move it around amidst those blades that are whizzing up and down and through, kind of the way I was taught to grind up black pepper. I have a little jar of it right here. If you maybe get it, you can kind of see the consistency is nice and varied. A little powder, a little chunky. Nice, because that's going to give you a little bit of the whole bean flavor as well as that really interior flavor, and the oils are spread throughout. So once you've achieved that, really, it's the sound. Get down on it. And then you also have a really nice way internally, depending on how you grind the coffee, where you buy the coffee. It's whole bean. You've already done two really nice things for yourself, and you're able to determine the grind of the coffee that's going to go into, your morning. Do you really want a strong cup? Do you really want something dark or something lighter and robust? So the amount and the grind really have a lot to say about what type of coffee you're going to end up with. So the next process is really simple and kind of fun. I just invert the spice grinder right into your color-coordinated Bodum French press here. Love to see that these were in supermarkets, right at the front of the supermarket, all sorts of sizes, and really personalizes and makes the coffee experience special, and that's what's awesome. So I bought my wife this little green, nice Bodum, and it's just really cheery and happy. I've got one of the traditional, Intenso French press, one of the original ones. So anytime you take pride in what you're making, it's nice. So it's a lot different than a machine where you push a button. This is kind of part of your life. So I always call it Christmas because it's red and green, and I like to make little silly color coordinations like that in the kitchen also. Color's very important, not just in the food, but in your kitchen, in your gear, and you got to love your gear like you love your food. Or at least I do anyway. So the next part is fun, and I get on the kind of the high pour action, and that's what I really like about it. It's almost like, you know, what the way Moroccans pour their mint tea at the table, and that's because it's not for show. It's also because it really, the velocity and the height of the pour really just stir that coffee up without having to do anything other than that. And then, like, there you go. A lot of people start beating something around in there. I've seen. I really don't think that's necessary. You've got a lot of hot water. You've got a lot of broken up surface area of coffee, depending on your roast that you're looking for, or your actual finish, and you're going to get some serious coffee out of that. So you don't really have to go through that process. I think that's sort of neurotic, actually, and I'm trying not to be neurotic by having coffee, because it's going to make me edgy naturally. Caffeine is like that. So the more intent we put into it, the more that we get down to, you know, facing its nature as what it does in our bodies with a lot of calm. And if we face it with a lot of calm and expectations of relaxation, as we should, we have joie de vivre. If we're pounding it like, say, America's running on some other types of coffee, which I have done and everyone does, but that too has its place. Hopefully, that's where it needs to be on those tough mornings. Maybe you assign it, and otherwise try to have some tea, or maybe get up early and have some French press, or like I do, I reserve the French press coffee for, you know, hunting camp or Sunday mornings, or when I really need some coffee, because that's what this is going to be. So I'm kind of jabbering away here during this process because right now the French press is really doing its thing in there. And then so what I try to do is do a little centripetal action and just kind of get it moving around in there and try not to make too much of a mess. But when you're at hunting camp, you don't worry about it too much. You worry about it in a different way than you would if you were at home, because you're roughing it, even though you're indoors, which is kind of a nice thing to allow yourself as someone who is constantly in a kitchen or an environment where we're serving others. And so hunting camp is a retreat. It's a pleasure to be here. I let at least 3 or 4 minutes go. Here's another part of the coffee action that you have control over. The time that it steeps. Steeping is like tea. Bean is like the tea here in this instance. I'm really thinking things are already kind of happened and nice, and I'm already kind of feeling it that the coffee's where it needs to be. So you kind of want to brace the coffee. Don't try to push it down without holding the French press really tightly here at the bottom, and then you're going to just gently push that coffee out. Again, you don't want to violently push that coffee out right now, because you don't want to push on those beans. You just want to let them continue to be gently introduced into that water. And as it comes down to the bottom, you shouldn't feel an exorbitant amount of coffee that you're pushing out that oil. It's really not fair to the bean. It's kind of violent, and it's not fair to your body too, because the oil in the coffee is very acrid for your stomach, and you don't really want that. You want to be nice. It's kind of like not, putting stems in your stock, or boiling things too hard, or smoking your oil. If you burn your olive oil, it becomes sort of bitter. So keeping things in a controlled temperature and controlled pressure. Really, there's a lot to learn from the way you make French press coffee that you can apply to the rest of your life. So we've got a fabulous steaming hot press of coffee here. I'm going to get one of these amazing mugs that has really been around for a long time. This one's the captain's mug. My wife and I have a affinity for handmade ceramics. This one's one of those dashboard mugs. Kind of reminds me of hunting camp, and it's funny, over the years I've kind of developed that as part of my style, in camp or out of camp. So when I say hunting camp, we're up here for a few months, not just a few weeks or a few days. When I camped with my dad, I came up for a few days. Now I'm living the life. So cheers. Here's to you, Dad, and everyone else who understands, living off the grid, totally on vid. Thank you very much.